Hey mini enthusiasts, how are you doing? Welcome back. It's part 10. I can't believe we're in double digits already, but progress is going quite well with the car. As you can see, this is a continuation from part 9 where we left Mark working on the car on his own because I couldn't get down there. So Mark's just started fitting the closing panels on the Mini here. And as you'll see, actually, he's had to do a bit of fettling with the closing panels. They don't fit very well. In fact, I don't think they ever do. So these will be M machine panels, I think. I don't think they're specifically heritage closing panels, but they are just a very rough sort of triangular shape. And then the idea with them is you sort of end up having to shape them yourself a little bit. So mainly because they're non-cosmetic, so you don't see them once they're up inside there. And of course they're determined by the fit of the scuttle panel and the lip where it meets up with the front wing, so it's going to vary quite a bit, hence you need to do a bit of fettling to get them to fit right. But they are just there to stop water and moisture getting up right up into that top of the inner wing and up on the underside of the scuttle panel. So cosmetically they don't have to look perfect. Like I say, they're just there to cut out moisture and water getting up inside the frame. So a bit of close-up detail here, and I think we're actually going to see Mark use a welder for the first time here. So Mark's never welded before. He's got a nice new welder, works very well, and I generally do all the welding for him, but obviously he couldn't be there today. So Mark's going to have a go at welding himself. Looks very pleased. And looking at it, actually, he does a pretty good job of it. So I'll leave you to it for a moment. You can see how he gets on. Well, it's sounding pretty good. That sounds like he's got the wire speed setting and the power setting right on the welder there. It's not spitting back too much. You're getting that nice sizzling sound from the welder. Most importantly though, he's not blowing holes in it, and he did go round, check the back of the welds afterwards, and it's getting good penetration as well. So I think he's probably laying on a bit too much weld, but you know, practice makes perfect. A bit too much is not nearly as bad as not enough. That's what grinding discs are for. So that's scuttle panel, closing panel. It's just plug welded to the inner wings there, or the inner wing and the flitch panel. You can't get a spot welder in there. You might be able to with some fancy shaped prongs for the spot welder, but we haven't got them. We've just got sort of a 30-40 degree angle and right angled ones. So yeah, those welds are not looking bad at all. So well done, Mark. You'll note there he remembered to turn the gas off. We've both learnt our lesson there now. It's an expensive mistake to make, but everyone's done it at some stage. And now the easy bit, just spot welding that outer lip there. Spot welder really is a godsend. I know they're expensive, but certainly when we've done the front end, doing the seals and the seam along the step and that, it's just so much quicker. So Mark's just moving on now to lining up the A panel and the wings back on the car now. So I think a really important point to mention actually regarding especially sort of the front end of a Mini is stick to one manufacturer. So there's lots of arguments for and against heritage panels, Magnum panels, M-machine panels, whatever you're going to use. My bit of advice would be, certainly when it comes to exterior panels, certainly front end panels and wings, A panels, things like that, is just go with one manufacturer for all of them. So if you're going to use heritage, make sure they're all heritage. And if you're going to use Magnum panels, make sure they're all Magnum. I think once you start trying to mismatch, you know, heritage wings with Magnum front end or a Magnum scuttle with heritage wings, you're really going to have some problems with alignment. Certainly what we found, you know, we spent quite a bit of time mocking up the front end, getting it all marked up, measuring, checking the gap with the bonnet, the scuttle, the A panels, the doors, everything like that, was that once you do kind of get it set, get it dialed in, all the other panels fit into place. And I just think once you start mixing panels up, it would be a nightmare, I would imagine. I mean, it's just like the width at the front. The front panel really determines the width of those wings. You know, you can't, not without some serious sort of bodywork, narrow or expand the front end too much, because you get the wrong line around the front panel then. So yeah, I know it's not always easy to do, but that'd be my advice. Stick with one manufacturer for the external panels, and I don't think you'll go far wrong. So Mark now really is just getting that front end ready to sort of be put back on and kind of final welded in place. Mark's just holding those panels in place with vice grips. You can never have enough vice grips, honestly. I think Mark's got about 20 pairs and we still fight over them. Mark has ordered up some Clico style clips actually, which are very useful, so you'll see that a little bit later on in the update. But for the moment we were just using self-tapping screws to hold those wings in place. But the Clico clips are much quicker, easier to use, a bit more precise, and you only have to drill a very small hole for them. So we're moving on to a week later now, so you'll see me back in the video doing some more work, admiring Mark's handiwork. We were looking at that door on the offside, Like I say, it's funny how things go. The near side door fitted absolutely perfectly, pretty much straight out the box. That was the door that was damaged. The offside door didn't have damage on it, but it didn't fit very well. And then vice versa, the offside front wing with a scuttle fitted perfectly straight away, and the near side wing took some fettling to get it right. So yeah, just removing the bonnet now, and then next steps I think are just fitting up those A panels, then trying to sort of fit the whole front end from sort of the doors forward. I'm just going around here, just touching up some little bits on that doorstep. So where Mark cut the seals, here comes a cup of tea, morning ritual. So yeah, where Mark cut the old seals out, just caught a couple of little bits on the doorstep with a cutting blade. So I just go along there with a welder, just fill them back up with weld. And Mark's obviously just working on the door and the A panel on the other side. It's a little bit frustrating actually, because it would be really useful if you could fit the A panel and fold the lip of the A panel with the door in place, but I don't think you can. Unless someone knows a way, please enlighten me. But you have to fold the lip of the A panel over, and you need the door out the way to do that. So that's both doors off the car now. These little last bits of welds are just kind of finishing up little bits. You always find some little bits that you missed, little cut marks somewhere or something like that. So you catch up with them all eventually. And then if you remember from the previous video actually, there's a few panels which we just tacked in place, just with a few spot welds here and there. So the scuttle panel's one of them. So the scuttle panel's on, it's all lined up, but it's only got a few spot welds on there. So I'll get on that in a minute and just weld it up. Sort of final fit, final welds. Mark's just fitting that offside scuttle there. Sorry, not scuttle, A panel. Mark's never fitted one before, so it's a first for him. I've never fitted one either. So we bought the tool from Frost's, which is like a classic car restorations sort of tooling site. They do all sorts of bits on there, tools and consumables. Very, very useful. It's not very cheap, that folding tool. I think it's about £50. Comes with a couple of different adapters with it, but it does give you a very nice fold, and you could use it for door skins, A panels, boot skins, and it gives a very nice finish. So we'll get a close-up of that in a bit actually. So for me, welder back out here, and I'm just finishing off that scuttle panel now. So like I mentioned earlier, it was just tacked in place. So I'm just seam welding up the A pillar and then just grinding that back. I tend to, bits like that, most of the time I leave the grinding work for Mark. Certainly along the floors and the sills and places like that, just because obviously I'm quicker at welding, Mark's quicker at grinding, so we tend to work like a team like that. But where they're thin panels like that, or certainly sort of bodywork joins, I tend to grind it back as well, because you need to make sure you've penetrated all the way through both panels, and obviously you've got to make sure you haven't left any pinholes or anything like that. So I tend to grind it back, just double check, and every now and again you just need to go over a tiny little bit to fill a pinhole or something like that. I'm just preparing that inner lip of the scuttle where the windscreen goes, just for the final spot welds as well. So when it comes to spot welding, actually I was looking at a standard mini the other day, and we're probably putting on a spot weld sort of every 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch, which I think, looking at it, certainly looks like more than they put on from sort of the factory build. But again, not too worried about that. You can probably do too many or spot weld too hot as well, put too much heat in the panel and distort it. But again, I see lots of videos where people put hardly enough spot welds in there, or if they're plug welding as well, you know, that they sometimes leave 1.5 inches, 2 inches between spot welds or plug welds, which is just not good enough. I mean, for me, any car like this, you know, whether it was my own car, but certainly a car like this, it's for Mark's wife. You've always got to think the worst one day that might be involved in an accident, and you want to make sure your workmanship is as good as or better than it would have been when the car was originally built. So I'm just cleaning up the spot welder tips there. That's quite important. You have to do it reasonably regularly as well. The cleaner the metal, the cleaner the spot weld, the less frequently you have to clean it up. But if you get a poor spot weld, if it doesn't arc right first time, if it doesn't get good contact, what you end up doing is burning the tips on the spot welder, and then it doesn't give a good spot weld on the next spot. So you've got to make sure that's kept clean and it's always got good contact. The cleaner that is and the better the tip, the better the spot weld you get. So Mark's just assisting there with a bit of cardboard, actually, because what you find, or what we found last time, was if the electrode is touching any other part of the bodywork, all it does is it just arcs out on that bit of the bodywork rather than the bit you want to spot weld. So anyway, doesn't time fly when you're having fun? We're approaching sort of 20 minutes now, so that'll be it for this update. Back again soon with the next update, and I'll show a close-up of that folding tool on the A panel, just so you can see that. But we're progressing along nicely now. And finally, just a close-up of those spot welds. You'll see a couple of gaps there, but that's just where it's already been spot welded. But like I say, spot weld about every probably inch maximum, about 3/4 of an inch. So thanks for watching as always, and catch you in the next update. Thank you.